Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9. And of course we're playing Mussolini's War, Italy. And we have Grand Battle Plan has advanced our research into it. And up here, right, okay, well, it's pretty good, and we'll let it continue to be developed. And aeronautical engineering, airframe twin engine research. Well, bombing site, incendiary bomb, strategic attack. We're probably not going to be doing much of that. Got to be really careful here. I want to get naval bombers, so we're going to research that, which then allows us to do naval bombers, reconnaissance aircraft, surface detection. Okay. Oh, we got another IC online, that's good. Small entertainment shows, good. Oh, you've missed about 9 minutes on an unreleased thing, got interrupted in the episode. So, we picked small entertainment shows, which reduce down our consumer goods needs, yay. Okay, now that we have excess needs here, we're going to build even more transports, because this is just pathetically little. Light cruisers are a little cheaper than a... Oh, wait a minute. They've changed these. I think, I'm guessing here, the destroyers had been more. Destroyers had represented more of a squadron of destroyers than a destroyer. So I guess we'll take a destroyer here. Let's reduce this down. No, not that much. A little over 40. And I want to do another flying boat. I really want to dominate the Mediterranean with air power. And going along with that, well, yeah, let's also throw on another fighter, and well, let's go with a mixed support. Horse transport, divisional HQ, of course. Okay. These are not strong divisions, but at least we're getting out of this DCNN. Those are fine, but those are fascist units. Those should be segregated like we see Waffen SS type name segregation. mean, they're not SS units, obviously, but wow. I mean, he has little skill at this point, but man, he has all of the talents. That's actually better than having, in my opinion, high levels of that. Okay, well. Those take quite a while to earn. Armor plate thickness has advanced. Good. We're going to stop. We've yet to be able to do medium tanks. What are we waiting for on medium armor design? Light armor designs at least 2. Okay, so we've got to do that. Tracks suspension at least 2. We have that small caliber. Okay, so are we doing small caliber? Yes, good. We are doing small caliber cannons. That will be helpful. Anti-air ammunition. Yeah, let's. How bad? Okay, we'll just stop that for now. We did stop armor plate thickness, right? Just want to make sure. Yeah. Yeah, way too much. We're going to even lower this a little bit more because we got Mondo supply. So let's go down to that. Okay, medium fuel tank research. Good. I think that is, well, it didn't gray out, but we're going to do that. And we're going to come down here and do naval bomber because we want to have naval bombers. Oh, we were talking about this before. The Via Balboa from 1934 to 1939, Italy became Libya, sorry, wow. Libya became an integral part to the Kingdom of Italy's plan to deal with a large population growth, poverty, and unemployment in the south. In 1934, these were merged to form the Italia Libya, which included concessions to obtain from British Sudan and territorial changes within Egypt. With the appointment of the Italian governor Italio Balboa, Italian Libya flourished. The Italians in Libya numbered 108,000 at the time of the 1939 census. The Italians, less than 30 years, built a huge public works, roads, railways, opening up vast tractor farmlands. In March 1937, Mussolini made a state visit to Libya, where he opened new military highway running the entire length of the colony, the Via Balboa. Okay, now, I debated with myself. These are Germans driving down the Via Balboa. Obviously, Panzer. What's that division that is? Because Italy has a bunch of events and Third Reich events, and I almost did it. I'm a little regretful now because Pavellini, my really only Italian contributor to, maybe I'm doing a disservice to this, because I didn't do it, has contributed a lot of events to TRE concerning Italy. Most you don't see. They include various sort of colonial cities, towns, cities that were built along the Italian growth, or the Libyan coast. Basically just gives you a teeny bit of population, as well as other cities that were developed in Italy, taking waste land in some areas that were, sort of coastal areas, draining them and building cities. And I will say, Pavolini, I do believe, from some of his comments, is very proud of the fascist heritage of Italy. As you know, I'm not by nature an authoritarian, and I don't know whether he is or not, though you might, people can be very proud of achievements made during fascist Italy without being really an authoritarian. I know Mikhail, who does watch a lot of these. Pavolini, I don't think watches the channel. I don't think he has time. But Mikhail, who's Russian and is really helping me develop. Nothing is being like made into events yet, but he's feeding me event ideas and event things dealing with Russia, and I'm sort of saving them off for a one day, someday Russian mod, or just be integrated into something else. I don't know. And he very much is informing me of what's going on in Russia today, and where they're sort of, to some degree, rehabilitating, I think would be a good term, Stalinism. And as part of that is trying to cover up the massive crimes of Stalin. And talking, about the good parts, building of new canals. And that's one of the things that we haven't made any events for it, but some of these new major canals that opened up, that are still in use today, that opened up during the Soviet era. A lot of trade using the waterways and other things like this. And I would say that, if you look at a very big is the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, electrified Tennessee here. If you want to know sort of what Tennessee was like, watch the movie Sergeant York. Now, it was set during World War I, but it really hadn't changed much. And although they didn't make any major new canals, America was railway minded, they did make a massive amounts of dams and other things to generate electricity. And it's a, instead of the big Hoover Dam, or Boulder Dam, it's sort of called both, here on the Colorado River. It's a network of smaller ones that are, not tiny, but are fitting in with the geography of the land. And it's not just in Tennessee, but they did this massive public works project during the FDR era of the NRA, not National Rifle Association, the National Recovery Act, I think it was more or less done under. Or some other elements of that, I forget the exact details, but that it was a massive public works building to make a diffused, instead of one big, multiple electrical generation plants out of hydroelectric water power, instead of burning coal or oil or whatever. That's what they were doing. And the reason I sort of compare them is the number of deaths involved, compared the massive amounts of deaths involved in most of the Soviet, because it was near slave labor, and it was pretty brutal. And I can't give you details, but it was bad. Where I'm sure they didn't have the health and safety. I'm absolutely sure. I know they didn't have the same health and safety as building things, and I'm sure a few people died during the construction. But I'm thinking, of all these things. But I'm thinking it's a handful. It's like a handful of people died for building Hoover Dam, because it was done out in the middle of the desert. And although they were trying their best to hydrate the people and deal with this stuff, people, would have heat stroke, and they're up high on something and fall off and die. So it happened, but it's in the literal handfuls, meaning probably less than 10 people total where the project actually died. And all of the people here, working during this time, as well as during this time, they were also building the Golden Gate Bridge. That's going to feature in events for the U.S. whenever we get to it. And I think a few people died in making the bridge, and at the time I think it was the largest spanned bridge or whatever in the world at the time. They were all volunteers, you know, wanting a job. In Depression era, you know, it wasn't like, oh, hey, there was a comfortable office job. You could have that, or you get to go work out in the god-awful hottest place in America about. And it really was then. You got Death Valley out here that would technically be hotter, but not by much. And probably not by much in the perception of humanity. You know, how much we would feel the stuff. So, it was really harsh conditions. So, most people wouldn't, you know, if they had, you know, other good cushy jobs to go to, they wouldn't take it. But hey, people had been until the recent end of the good economy, you know, that Barack Obama gave us. Vegas had been booming, and I think in many ways it would have ended its building boom just because they kept building at a rapid pace, and at some point, because it's an entertainment district, there's no other reason to be in Las Vegas other than either building the casinos and their associated other buildings, or servicing them. There's no other reason to live out in Las Vegas. It's a god-awful place. As I've said many times before to people, if you don't like the weather in Las Vegas, wait 20 minutes. It'll get worse. I've been there often, many times, for various different reasons. And it's a nice place to visit, but I'd hate to live there. Money would be the only thing that'd get me to live there. Now, since I'm poor, I get to live in California. But if I had money, I would leave California. The state income tax is horrid. You know, if I was rich, they'd pay me a lot of money to move to Las Vegas, because in Nevada, there is no state income tax. So something like that would get me to leave. But then, of course, I'd be living in a really nice house and not going out in the hot and the cold and whatnot. But, you know, it takes something like that to get you to move to Vegas. So, the Stalinist era, lots of people died. It was forced labor. It's not, in my opinion, justifiable. I don't know how the Via Balboa was made versus the labor, whether it was paid or forced or whatever. Italy did have its brutal moments, much of it well before fascism, in dealing with Libya. So, you know, in its colonization process. But Mussolini and the fascists really did work to modernize modern Italy, with largely without the death rates that we see in the Soviet Union. I don't know, and I don't think, because at least in Italy proper, that any of it was really, or any substantial amount was done with forced labor in that sense. But so there was a lot of growth under Mussolini and a lot of modernization. Now, as I've talked about before, I don't know that state control is the best way to achieve that, but that is a way, and they did make great strides moving it from a agrarian, muscle-powered economy into an industrial society during this time period, and that is most assuredly done under the fascists, because you got to realize it really was the old style system up until the end of World War I, 1919, 1920, whatever, depends on how you want to date the end of World War I. And the fascists come into power in 1922, so it really is under Mussolini and the fascists that this happens. So we can see the infrastructure levels. So we do this, we're going to lose money. We can afford that. Supplies, we can afford that right now. And lose in descent, but we don't have any descent really. So, great. I've got to click off and click back to see. There we go. So we have the Via Balboa. Okay, steel armor casting ability. Good. Now, okay, steel casting capability 3. Needs for cast armor versus welded armor, and that's what we're going to go for, is cast armor. I don't know if we'll ever be able to get to interlocked armor or anything like that, but I do want to get out of basic bad armor, so we're going to continue with that. And another light infantry branch. Okay, and yes, that's grayed out here, but what else might we want to do? Yeah, I think so. No, okay. FS class ETR 200. This event will trigger better supply benefits in the future. In the 1930s, the Italian State Railway, Ferrovie dello Stato, electrified the Milan, Bologna, Florence, Rome, Naples main line, needed as a fast train, and used on it and other newly electrified ones. Okay, this is probably Google Translate or something. The project was started in 1934 using new techniques for steel and aerodynamics. The innovative nose of the train developed after studies in the wind tunnel at the Politecnico del Torino Engineering University. The first example was built by the Society Italiana Ernesto Breda in 1936 with 3 cars on 4 bogies, 2 of which had a single T62R100 motor, while the others were provided with 2 similar motors each. So they established new world record running at 203 kilometers an hour from Pontenura to Piacenza. A popular myth says that Benito Mussolini was at the controls, but that proved to be untrue. Okay, let me, I want to talk about modern situation here based off this. Recently, last day or two or whatever, we had a derailment of a high-speed train that was that I think to go between Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, or something like that. Maybe even right in here. And of course, there was a lot of condolences, and Trump came out. See how bad our infrastructure is. We need better infrastructure spending, and Trump's the builder, and all of this stuff. And I do follow on Twitter some liberal people, and they were going, yeah, whatever, but look at how bad our 19th century technology is. And they then pointed to, I don't know, like a Chinese or somebody else's high-speed railway that's, instead of, you know, old wooden railway ties hooking things together, it was, you know, modern concrete and really modern. Trains are a limited and rather out of date means of transportation. I don't understand the left's, and it's definitely the left, vehemence for them. I don't know whether it's well, they do it in Europe, so we got to do it, or whether it's electrical. well, most electricity in the U.S. is still powered by coal, so think of coal stacks on top of these things. Or it's diesel electric. I mean, it's an electric engine powered by diesel engines in the thing. But the high speed are often electric or something. So they think it's clean. But again, a lot of our electricity is done by coal. And they want these high-speed trains. But, and they're like vehemently pushing for this. And in California, there's a law that people voted for that will make a high-speed, or that forces the government to make a high-speed train from Los Angeles to San Francisco. And it'll go pretty fast. But if you do realistic surveys on who would take the train, you're going to have a couple hundred people a day taking the train, you know, if it's high speed or whatever. And you're going to be moving passengers at, I forget what it was, but I don't know, it was like $10,000, $50,000 per passenger cost for the first like 40 or 50 years building it, you know, do the cost of building, you know, amortize the cost out over the thing. And the left, you know, wants to ride bicycles and ride trains or something like that. And you Europeans or Asians or whatever don't understand something here. Even if you visited LA, you probably don't understand. LA was designed, you know, greater LA, designed on the scale of the automobile, okay? So to get around, to move around, when I've taken the blue line, actually, I normally take the blue line when I go to the LA Convention Center because I live down sort of here in Long Beach, and the LA Convention Center is sort of up here where the airport is here. The airport's actually over here where the LAX is, but and there is from Long Beach up to the convention center, there's sort of one shot with the blue line, and if you get it in the right spot, it takes about half an hour, and it's quicker than driving. And it's like 4 blocks, and one of the stops is 4 blocks from the LA Convention Center. And don't have to pay for parking down here in the train station parking, because it's one of the train stations. Our blue line thing has a big multi-story parking thing, one of the few ones that's free to park in it, and it costs a lot to park up near the LAX, and it often takes a half an hour to drive, or about there. And if it's in traffic, it can take an hour to drive. So it's cheaper and more efficient, unless you're going to have like 4 people or something riding in the car. Cheaper and more efficient to take the train up to there. But if you're going 8 blocks away from the end of the blue line, probably most of you Europeans would only feel comfortable walking those 8 blocks instead of the 4 that go sort of to there. If you had a machine gun in your hand, you know, feel like really, hey, I'm safe. I've got an M16 in my hand. The neighborhood ain't gonna get me. So if you're going anywhere off of it, off of the, you know, the thing, it really, really sucks. And last time on my way back, there was something wrong with the train, so we had to get off and wait for 20 or 30 minutes for them to get another train. So that sort of sucked. And it was at a really shitty part of town. But, you don't know what I look like, but people don't mess with me. Even in really shitty parts of town. Just, you know, won't go into too much, but I can go into it. Just no one messes with me. So, and they often wonder why I'm there. But they don't mess with me. So I'm not worried about it, but other people might be worried about being stuck in it. And yeah, I know Uber and taxis, and Ubers may be easier to get, but taxis are near impossible to get in any sort of timely manner in LA. And so everything is built on the scale of the automobile. So it would take and I'm talking redesign of the street system to make it not this way. So it is not practical for Southern California to be the left's dream of this sort of bicycle and public transportation means of transport to get around. And they're pushing it. In the city in which I live in, Long Beach, they've added a bunch of these share ride bikes, and they've taken one lane away from some of the downtown streets and turned it into a complete bike lane, and other god-awful things that just make moving around and getting around much harder. And if you're within the 6 or 8 blocks of downtown and you live there in the hipster apartment buildings that they built or converted over and other things to, you're okay. But once you go, you don't want to go outside of those 6 blocks, because 10 blocks away, literally every other night, I would hear gunfire. Just go pop, 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 pop. That would be it. Just gunfire. Well, within 4 to 8 blocks of my office building. I worked at night as well. So and it was a personal office. It wasn't somebody else's office. So I worked there whenever I felt like it. And so, yeah, every night, or every other night, I would hear gunfire. And trust me, I know gunfire. It wasn't backfires. It wasn't fireworks. It was gunfire. I don't know who was shooting at who or what, or people were just shooting. But it wasn't just a bang, and it wasn't celebratory. It was gunfire. So you go just outside of the really good neighborhoods. You don't want to be there. And so very specific cases. Now, San Francisco, almost the last thing I want is to have a car in San Francisco. San Francisco is the only place that's really sort of, and it's the oldest big city, really, as in being a big city, not just the old. Because Los Angeles is super old, even Sacramento is fairly old, but built as a big city, San Francisco. And it's sort of like the European idea of things close together, densely packed. The only bad part about trying to, well, you don't want to bike around San Francisco. God, no. It's because it's way too hilly. I'm sure there are, biking enthusiasts that want to do it, but normal people don't want to bike around San Francisco because it's god-awful hilly. But it is a city. It is silly too, but it's a city that is built on the scale of the human being as opposed to the scale of the automobile. But get outside of that, on the west coast of the United States, it's rather underpopulated. It's populated right here, and then it's populated right down here, and it's populated right now. It sort of goes into Oakland, San Jose area. It's populated right here, and it's a little bit populated along here. Once you get outside of that, then I don't even think you would really consider hardly Sacramento. Maybe it's populated in the city of Sacramento. But outside of that, California is very depopulated. You don't, amount of government land, this is the Sierra Madres here, the mountains, this whole, I don't have my mod installed, hey, so you don't see the cool California Carmel. This is all, super unpopulated territory. So to get around, you need automobiles. So having high-speed trains is just not the way the people out here want to move around. Now you get to the East Coast, they want to do, and they have, and the one that derailed, it was going, I think it was, they said 82 miles an hour when it derailed. And the section of track that they were going over was rated for 30 miles an hour. Why the hell? and this was the inaugural, the very first run of this train, and at least on this path that was open to the public. I don't know if they did test runs, but this was the first public run of the train, and it derailed, and they were going 82 miles an hour, but it's 80 plus, and in like a 31 mile an hour rated section of the track. And people are complaining about that, and it's scheduled sometime in 2018 to have that section of track, because they can't do everything all at once, all in one day or whatever, to schedule to have the new speed monitoring interactive system or whatever for for the train, so that to tell the computer or whatever on the train to go slower. It didn't have that in, and it's scheduled for sometime next year to be installed, because that was sort of a shortcut that was used, but not the main area that was used, and they sort of did the shortcut way to cut off some of the time to get there, but you had to go slow over it or something. So yeah, it derailed. And people are all blaming our crumbling infrastructure. Well, railways in America are all private. Amtrak was something done back in the 70s to save passenger rail traffic, because it was all going bye-bye for either cars or airplanes. See, airplanes, they're these really neat new inventions. They fly through the air, and they can go anywhere, and you're not bound on a track, and you don't have to disrupt the environment around you. Meaning, I don't know whether it's deer crossings or people's homes and have a loud train going by. They fly through the air. Yeah, you got to land them. So if you live near an airport, it could be a problem with the noise and whatnot. But they fly through the air, and they can go anywhere you want, and you can have 10 of them flying right next to each other if you want to in formation, and then all quickly land or something. They don't have to wait for each other. So, airplanes, they work great. They really do. You ought to try that someday, people, instead of the train. So the train was going out of business, so they sort of set up with a semi-public, semi-private corporation funded by the government called Amtrak, simply to run passenger trains on all because all the railways are basically, at least functionally all of them are, privately owned. So unlike the highways, which are publicly owned for the most part, there are some toll roads, but for the most part they're publicly owned. And so, this high-speed train thing is just a 19th century technology that they're trying to shove down our throats because it sounds good, it sounds cool. But if the human being doesn't want to use it, why force them to it? Because you're going to have to do social engineering to do so. Put gas taxes high or other sorts of social engineerings to get people to use it. Because I understand, and I've traveled a little bit around Europe on trains. I once took the train from London to Paris, and then a few days later back to London. So I've done that, and I've taken some train a little bit around Britain. But getting around one of these congested cities, and because I've driven around Italy a lot, 3 times, and Pisa or Milan, they're small, tight cities. I could tell you some. Trying to drive around. What's next to Pisa? One of this, because it's was it not Milan? Oh God, I forget. I'm trying to drive around that city. Oh God, getting lost and people, and again, medieval city. I'm trying to get back to my hotel because you can park your car, because this is for the Americans. I know all you Europeans know this. You can park your car sort of up on the sidewalk at night, and you sort of leave enough room for people to drive. But in the morning, everybody takes their cars off and drives to work or whatever. So I park with everybody else on my little rented car. It wasn't Pisa. It's you know, it's literally the sort of the town right next to it or whatever, or a few miles or something. Obviously, it's not because those are too far away, but it's really close there. And so I wake up and look out my hotel window, and could see where my rental car was, and it's the only car up on, you know, half on the sidewalk. You can get around it on the sidewalk, and you can drive, but it's the only car there. So I go, oh shit, I got to move the car. So I quick put on clothes, dash down, get in the car, and drive 4 or 5 blocks and find a you know, a building in which is converted into a parking structure of sorts. And then you can pay to park your car there per the hour. Okay, cool, yeah. Because, you know, I hadn't eaten breakfast, hadn't showered, and whatever, so I wanted to get ready to go on the day. And so, yeah, okay, I'll pay, you know, and they have the prices up and whatnot. This was before there was a euro. So, yeah, you know, it wasn't too insane for, you know, a couple hours or less. So, great. I'll go there and, you know, park it there and then walk back. It was like I say, 4 or 5 blocks from my hotel, no problem. Park it there, go clean up, and I was traveling with a buddy. I said, you wait here, you know, because we checked out our hotel with luggage, because I didn't want to leave the luggage in the car to have it stolen. So, you stay here with the luggage, I'll go get the car, and be right back. Oh, it's about an hour and a half later I get back. Well, you see, I knew right where the hotel was. I knew right where the parking garage was. And I, you know, basically, I just walked there, got in the car. And then, since in this town, we'll call it Pisa for the best sake, but it's just outside of that. Florence. It's Florence, Italy. Why am I... Yeah, it's Florence. Why? Florence is a bigger town than Pisa. Yes, Pisa has a leaning tower, but it's Florence. It was in Florence, Italy. Downtown, basically Florence, Italy. Okay? You know where Florence, Italy is, people. Some of you may have been there. Okay, so, get in my car. Most of the roads are one way. Fine. I know where the hotel is. Fine. I know the name of the street that the hotel's on. Fine. Okay, I sort of got to figure I got to loop back around to it, and loop back around, and driving around and messing around. Okay, we'll go out, and I get on sort of the ring road highway, then come back, and I'm driving a little Volkswagen Golf. Driving around. And I'm looking at looking at the signs and looking at the thing, and I cannot find the street in which the hotel is on, where my buddy is sitting with the luggage. You know, in front of the hotel. Can't find this, and I'm going around and I'm going around and I'm going around, and I can't find this thing. So I finally find a parking place that I can legally park in the daytime, and this is probably 8-9 blocks away from the hotel in Florence, that I can legitimately park and put money in the parking meter. And I walk to where the hotel is, because I have a reasonably good sense of direction, and I sort of basically know where it is, and I walk to the hotel room, or to the hotel. And I realize, oh, at one end of the block, the street that the hotel is on is named one thing. At the other end of the block, it's named something different. And you can't, because it's sort of little dog-leg-ish or whatever, you can't just like look and see as you're driving by to see, because the hotel's sort of flush with the buildings. Because I'm talking to you Americans. I know most of the Europeans have had know this type of city, maybe not medieval Florence, but or Renaissance Florence maybe would be more correct. You know, everything's sort of flush with the streets and not much, you know, with other buildings, not something big hanging out. This is just like a 3-4 story small hotel, and you know, whatever. Nice little place. And so, oh, okay. Now I know. I got to look for this other street, Via Val whatever, you know. Oh, okay. And it's literally within a block or so, the street name changes. And because the street on the hotel is one way, so I can't, because I could see the and know where the street was for where the hotel was from the other end, because I could drive by that, as I'm sort of circling around. But I can't go, up the wrong way on this, one-way street that's basically, a lane and a half wide or whatever. So I can't go, and it's like a block or more. But there was no place to like park my car and then right there and then walk, and we just carry the luggage there. So this is what I kept driving around. So the headache is my buddy was panicked. Where did I disappear to? And he refused to wait, so we had to drag our luggage to where I left the car. Because I said, no, I'll be right back, and now I can do, no. But so within a block, the name changes on a medieval city. So yes, if I was going to go to Florence or to Pisa, I could see wanting to take the train. If I don't know, coming up from Rome for a day trip to Pisa, or overnight or something, and maybe a few times take short taxi rides, maybe I can see that. But that is not how the West Coast. It's been. I was in Seattle once when I was very young. Been to Oregon a couple of more times, but all my experiences there, it's mostly built on automobile scale. The only place is San Francisco, but these leftist nuts that live out here want to emulate Europe. I think it's partially emulation of Europe, like I say, and I think it's partially this perception that whether it's public transportation. Well, no, I think it's partially the perception of egalitarianism of public transportation. I think that's part of it. So I think it's Europe is cool. It's egalitarian, leveling, everybody common together ideology, and a often misguided belief that electricity is somehow cleaner than gas engines. Electrical engines that get their electricity from coal power plants or from oil powered plants are not cleaner than gas engines, people. The immediate car, it's cleaner, but the electricity that it's generated from is not any cleaner. So yes, we do have a couple of nuclear power plants, one down here along the coast. Yes, we do have Hoover Dam. That's hydroelectric, but that's a limited amount of power. So, most of the rest of the electricity is coal-fired electricity here, people. Because, hey, we need more electricity than that will give us. And the couple of wind farms and the one big solar farm out here is a minuscule amount of power, if I'm understanding correctly. So the idea that these people continue to this day wanting to do 19th century technology is nuts. Works for Japan. Never been to Japan. I want to go someday, but that is such a highly densely populated country because it is highly mountainous, and so the people are, for cultural reasons, but also I think it's somewhat based on geography, are shoved into really small, densely populated areas, and it just makes sense for them. But it doesn't make sense everywhere. It wouldn't make sense down in Australia. Yes, wouldn't. Oh, well, Sydney to Melbourne and back. Okay, one railway, Sydney to Melbourne and back. Where's, that's Canberra, the capital. Where's, Melbourne, Sydney is. Oh, that's Adelaide. What am I going up there for? Sydney's in here, isn't it? A little more inland or something? Oh, see, my geography isn't great on Australia, sorry. Australians, I vaguely know what I'm talking about. But, so one route. But everywhere else, yeah, Sydney up here. Okay, I thought just a little bit further, yeah. Maybe one high-speed railway might make a little sense. But everywhere else in Australia, no. It just doesn't make sense. So, and the only reason I'm bringing this up really is because we had the accident a couple days ago or whatever, which only a handful of people, fortunately only a handful of people got killed. I think it got down to like just 2 people died or something. I don't know, but I mean any is too much. But just partially the idiocy of doing it on your very first run, which means that either corruption was involved, and then why I say that is because if they had fully tested everything out and ran that high-speed train back and forth many times with no passengers, no public passengers, if they had done that, because that's what you do for testing, if they had done that, I don't think it would fall off on its first thing. So either there's corruption, so somebody didn't do the testing and should have claimed that they did, or there's incompetence, they just didn't do the testing, or whatever. And the way you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to fill that train up with sandbags that are the weight of human beings and put them in all those chairs, and then zip that train back and forth along the thing at the maximum allowed speeds. Obviously the one section of the road was, at least this is what I heard on the news, could be wrong, but that it was rated for like 31 miles an hour. So you don't go over 31 miles an hour for the testing, because you test it to the max that it's rated for, and you do it multiple times. So either they claim to have done it and didn't, or they were incompetent and were rushing, so they didn't test it, or there is just I don't know whether it's sabotage or incompetence goes back to they didn't test it, or they did test it, but whoever they had driving was incompetent on it, or there was sabotage. The reason I say sabotage was Antifa, not, I don't think on this stretch of the track, but on one of the stretches of the track in there, had claimed that they had put stuff on the railways to derail trains that were moving some sort of industrial products to fight the man. But I don't know that has anything to do with this of that. So let's see. It's an investment. 5,000 supplies. We can afford that. 5 till 37. Well, it's October 37. Leadership modifiers. Okay. We're happy with horses. Well, I guess we'll do this. I hope that will, because it says it will help our overall railway. We could use that. Well, on all this happy note of me bitching about trains and whatnot, we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections, because I do get facts wrong. Please post them there. And hey, you want to dispute with me? Do so pleasantly. I'm happy to have you do so. I'm not always right, but So see you next time for more Hearts of Iron.